There will come a time in your life when everything seems to collapse at once. Your plans fall apart, your heart feels heavy, and your mind, the very place you once found strength, turns against you. It doesn't shout. It whispers, what if you're not enough? What if you can't fix this? And before you know it, you're caught in the spiral, a storm of overthinking, fear, and confusion. You try to stop it. You tell yourself to calm down, to think positive, to stay strong. But the harder you fight your thoughts, the louder they become. Because the truth is, you cannot silence the storm by shouting over it. You can only calm it by understanding where it comes from. And that is the first lesson. Chaos doesn't begin outside of you. It begins within. When everything feels out of control, it's not the world that's spinning. It's your mind. The world has always been uncertain. The economy shifts. People change. Plans fail. But your suffering begins when your mind tries to control the uncontrollable. You see, the mind loves control. It believes peace comes from predicting every outcome, from fixing every problem, from knowing what's next. But life doesn't work like that. Life is not a machine. It's a river. And rivers don't obey your commands. They flow where they must. When you try to force the current, you drown. But when you learn to float, when you trust the water, when you trust your own strength to stay afloat, you begin to move with life instead of against it. That is the beginning of mastery. So when the storm hits, don't run, don't fight. Don't blame yourself for feeling lost. Instead, pause, breathe, and listen. Listen to what the storm is trying to teach you. Every storm has a message that you've been holding too tightly, that your mind has mistaken control for peace, that it's time to release, to return to center, to remember what can and cannot be controlled. There's a saying, you cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. That's what this video is about. Not eliminating chaos, but learning to stand tall in its center. Not escaping your thoughts, but learning to command them with calm. Because the greatest power you'll ever have is not the ability to control life, but the ability to control how you respond to it. And when you master that, when you stop letting the storm define you and start becoming the calm inside it, you realize something profound. You were never powerless. You were simply distracted by the noise. The storm outside is loud, yes, but the storm inside, that's the one that steals your peace. And the moment you turn inward, the moment you face your mind, instead of fleeing from it, the wind begins to quiet. The water begins to still. And you remember, you were always capable of calm. This stillness you are beginning to feel now, this is your natural state, not anxiety, not panic, not chaos. Peace is your default. You've just forgotten how to return to it. So let this be the start of your return. Back to the center of yourself. Back to the place where silence lives. Back to the truth that your thoughts are not your master. You are. You felt the storm. You've heard its voice. Now let's understand it. Why the mind creates chaos when it loses control, and how peace begins the moment you stop chasing control itself. The greatest illusion of the human mind is the belief that peace will come. Once everything is under control, we chase control like it's oxygen. We plan every detail. We overthink every outcome. We try to predict what others will do, what life will bring, and what tomorrow will look like. But control is a mirage. The closer you run toward it, the faster it fades. You don't suffer because life is uncertain. You suffer because you keep demanding that it be certain. The mind craves security, a guarantee that things will go according to plan, that people will act as we expect, that tomorrow will reward our effort. But life was never built for guarantees. It was built for growth, and growth by its nature requires uncertainty. You can't evolve while holding on to control. You can't expand while clinging to the past. Control feels safe, yes, but it's a cage lined with comfort. And the more you grip it, the smaller your world becomes. Think about it. Every time you tried to control everything, your relationships, your career, your timing, did you find peace or did you find exhaustion? The truth is, control doesn't protect you from pain. It multiplies it. Because the more you try to bend the world to your will, the more resistance you meet. And resistance is the birthplace of suffering. Life doesn't punish you when you lose control. It simply reminds you, you never had it in the first place. Everything you love is temporary. Everything you build is vulnerable. Everything you plan is only a possibility. But that's not tragedy. That's beauty, because within that impermanence lies freedom. When you realize you can't control the waves, you stop trying to fight them and you start learning to surf. When you understand you can't control people, you stop manipulating and you start loving more honestly. When you accept that you can't control the future, you stop fearing it and you start living the present fully. Control doesn't create safety. Awareness does. Acceptance does. Discipline does, because control comes from fear, but discipline comes from trust. And when you trust yourself, you no longer need to control everything else. You see, there's a difference between responsibility and control. Responsibility means doing your best with what you have. Control means trying to bend reality into your version of should. One brings peace, the other brings suffering. You can't control the rain, but you can carry an umbrella. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. You can't control the storm, but you can train your mind to stay calm within it. That's the art of life. Not control, but cooperation with the unpredictable. When you stop fighting uncertainty, you start seeing the hidden order beneath it. You begin to notice patterns, how things fall apart just before they fall into place, how endings are often beginnings in disguise, how every detour was quietly guiding you toward clarity. There's a deeper intelligence at work. Call it God, call it the universe, call it life itself. It doesn't need your micromanagement. It needs your trust. Let go, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that some things are meant to unfold, not be forced. So when everything feels out of control, remember this: you don't need to control life. You only need to control the part of you that panics when life changes. That's real power. That's where peace begins, because freedom doesn't come from mastering life. It comes from mastering your response to it. The moment you stop chasing control, you rediscover something you'd forgotten: the quiet confidence of simply being. And in that space, life finally starts to flow again. Now that you see how control keeps you trapped, it's time to look deeper into the true source of chaos, your thoughts. They shape your reality, yet most people never question them. So let's uncover what your thoughts really are and why they hold such power over your peace. Your thoughts are not reality. They are reflections, passing shadows projected by the mind. But most people live as if every thought is the truth. You think something and you believe it. You feel something and you obey it. You imagine a fear and suddenly it becomes your future. This is the prison of the unobserved mind. Thoughts are like waves on the surface of the ocean, constant, restless, ever-changing. They rise, they crash, they disappear. And yet the ocean itself remains still beneath them. You are that ocean. Your thoughts are not you. They are weather moving through your sky. But you have spent so long staring at the clouds that you've forgotten the sky exists. Every fear, every memory, every self-doubt you carry is just a cloud passing by, but you keep chasing it, naming it, feeding it, and in doing so, you give it power. If you could only pause and watch your thoughts, you'd realize how little control they actually have. They only control you when you confuse them with truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one hearing them. You are the silent awareness behind the noise. That's why when you say, I can't stop thinking, what you really mean is, I can't stop believing my thoughts. The mind was designed to think. It's doing its job. The problem begins when you stop being the master and become the servant of that endless chatter. If you want to regain peace, you don't destroy thoughts. You learn to observe them without reaction. You learn the art of distance. Try this. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice the thoughts rushing through your head. Plans, regrets, judgments, worries. Now, instead of fighting them, simply watch them like you'd watch cars pass on a road. One by one, they come and go. You don't have to chase any of them. You don't have to jump into the traffic. You just stand by the road, quiet, aware, untouched. And in that space between two thoughts, you will meet something extraordinary. yourself. That stillness between thoughts is who you really are. Pure awareness, peace without effort, clarity without noise. The ancient Stoics understood this truth. They taught that the mind is like a mirror. If you don't polish it, dust and distortion make you see the world wrongly. But if you keep it clean, you see things as they are, not as you fear them to be. You don't have to control your thoughts to find peace. You only need to stop identifying with them. When a dark thought arises, I'm not good enough. I failed. I'll never be okay. Don't argue with it. Don't fight it. Just recognize it for what it is, a visitor, a whisper of old conditioning passing through. You can't stop birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from building a nest in your hair. The same is true for thoughts. The more attention you give them, the stronger they grow. But the more awareness you give them, the weaker they become. Awareness dissolves illusion. Like sunlight melting fog, truth always clears the confusion of thought. And when that happens, when the fog lifts, you'll see that peace was never gone. It was only hidden behind the noise. So the next time your mind begins to race, don't fight it. Step back, watch, smile gently, and say, this too will pass. Because it will. Every thought does. Every storm ends. And when the clouds part, you'll see what was always there. A vast, unshakable sky within you. That sky is who you are. That silence is your power. That awareness is your freedom. Now that you've seen the truth about thoughts, that they are not enemies, but weather, it's time to learn how to return to stillness, to train your mind to rest in that calm space between the storms. Peace is not something you chase. It's something you return to. And the path back is stillness. But stillness is not easy in a world that worships noise. We wake up to alarms. We scroll through headlines, messages, opinions. We feed our minds constant motion, then wonder why they can't stop spinning. The truth is, your mind doesn't need more information. It needs silence. Because silence is not emptiness. It's space. And space is where wisdom breathes. So let's begin here. Not with effort, but with awareness. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment and exhale gently. Again, inhale, deeper this time. Hold and release it. Do you hear that? That faint sound behind your thoughts. The one that doesn't speak in words, that's you. That's your awareness returning home. Stillness begins when you stop trying to fix the moment. You don't have to make your thoughts disappear. You only have to stop following them. Let them come, let them go. You are not here to control the ocean. You are here to learn how to float. If your mind starts to wander, if it brings you back to the past or pushes you toward the future, just notice it. Smile and gently return to your breath. In this practice, every return is a victory. Every awareness is a homecoming. The world will tell you that doing nothing is lazy, but doing nothing consciously is power, because in that space of non-doing, you begin to see clearly again. The calm mind doesn't avoid the storm. It sits inside it and listens. It feels the wind, but it no longer fears being blown away. This is not meditation for escape. It's meditation for engagement. You are not retreating from life. You are preparing to meet it with clarity. When you train stillness daily, you become unshakable. Not because life stops testing you, but because you stop reacting to every test. Stillness is the root of strength. It's the gap between stimulus and response, that sacred second, where you get to choose who you will be. Imagine that moment in your day, before the argument, before the stress, before the rush, when you simply pause. That single pause is your portal back to peace, because peace doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires presence. Even now, as you listen, notice how your body feels. Notice the weight of your hands, the rhythm of your breath, the softness in your jaw. This is awareness. This is control, the kind that doesn't dominate, but liberates. When you master stillness, you stop being a victim of momentum. You no longer chase the next moment. You experience this one fully. And ironically, that's when everything you were chasing starts coming to you naturally, because the calm mind is magnetic. It attracts clarity. It draws opportunities. It radiates a kind of quiet power the world can feel. Stillness doesn't make you passive. It makes you precise. Your actions become deliberate, not desperate. Your focus sharpens. Your words carry weight. The world belongs to those who can stay calm when others panic, not because they know every answer, but because they trust every moment. So if you take just one practice from this entire journey, let it be this: sit in silence, every day, even for 5 minutes, not to escape life, but to reconnect with it. Because silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of yourself. And the more you meet yourself in stillness, the less the world can shake you. Now that you've tasted stillness, it's time to learn the next secret of inner strength, the paradox of surrender. Because true control doesn't come from holding on, it comes from letting go. There is a moment on every path when your effort no longer works. When your mind, tired of solving, finally whispers, I don't know what to do anymore. That moment, the one that feels like defeat, is not the end. It's the beginning. Because surrender isn't giving up, it's giving in. To wisdom deeper than your understanding, we are taught to fight, to strive, to push harder. But sometimes peace doesn't arrive when you do more. It arrives when you finally stop resisting what is. Surrender is not the loss of power. It's the alignment with a greater one. It's the choice to trust that life knows more than your plans do. There's a quiet strength in that, a dignity in the way a tree bends with the wind instead of breaking against it. The tree doesn't call that weakness. It calls it wisdom, because what bends does not break. Your mind, when untrained, believes it must control everything, the outcome, the timing, the way people see you. But the trained mind knows control is temporary. Alignment is eternal. When you surrender, you stop swimming against the current of life. You start floating with it. And strangely, that's when you begin to move faster. Not because you force it, but because you finally stopped interfering with your own flow. Think of the sky after a storm. No matter how violent the wind, the clouds always part. The light always returns. The sky doesn't chase the clouds away. It simply waits. That's surrender. To surrender is to trust the timing of life. It's to accept that not every closed door is rejection. Some are protection, that not every delay is punishment. Some are preparation. You can't always see it now, but life has its own rhythm, one that unfolds perfectly once you stop trying to rewrite the tempo. Look at water. It yields, but it conquers. It has no shape of its own, yet nothing can resist it for long, because it knows power is not in resistance. Power is in flow. That's what surrender teaches you, to flow with what is without losing who you are. When you let go, you stop demanding that life match your expectations. And in that space, something miraculous happens. Peace slips in, clarity returns, and suddenly you realize that what you were clinging to was the very thing holding you down. The truth is, you were never meant to carry it all. Not every burden was yours to bear. Not every battle was yours to fight. And not every answer was meant to be found by force. Surrender doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop forcing. You still act, you still move forward, but your action comes from faith, not fear. From calm, not chaos. From guidance, not desperation. The most powerful people in the world are not those who fight everything. They are those who know when to bow, not in weakness, but in wisdom. When you bow to what is, when you stop saying, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Your entire life begins to transform, because surrender doesn't shrink you, it softens you. And in that softness, you become unbreakable. The same iron that resists the hammer shatters, but the iron that yields becomes a sword. So when life asks you to release, don't fight it. Don't grip tighter. Breathe. Say quietly to yourself, I trust. Trust that the timing is right, even if it feels wrong. Trust that what leaves your life was never meant to stay. Trust that what is meant for you cannot pass you by. Because surrender is not about losing control. It's about remembering that you were never separate from life to begin with. The wind doesn't fight the sky. The river doesn't fight gravity. And you don't need to fight the flow of your becoming. You're not falling apart. You're falling into place. When you finally stop fighting, you begin to align dash. Mind, body, and spirit moving as one. And in that alignment lies your greatest power, the return to yourself. When the noise fades, when the struggle ends, something extraordinary begins to happen. A silence appears. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of alignment. You start to feel whole again. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you stopped fighting yourself. For years, your mind and your heart have been at war. One pulls toward reason, the other toward feeling. Your body bears the weight of both. Tight chest, heavy breath, restless nights. But now, as you breathe and surrender, they begin to meet. They begin to remember that they were never enemies. They were just out of sync. This is alignment when your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions move in the same direction. When what you think matches what you say. When what you say aligns with what you do. And when what you do reflects what you truly believe. That is power. That is peace. Because internal conflict is the root of all suffering. And when that conflict ends, you don't need to control the world anymore. You are finally in control of yourself. Alignment doesn't mean perfection. It means honesty. It means no longer living in contradiction. Pretending to be okay when you're not chasing goals you don't care about. Smiling through exhaustion. It means slowing down enough to hear what your soul is asking for and having the courage to listen. The disciplined mind without the open heart becomes rigid. The open heart without the disciplined mind becomes lost. But when the two unite, you move through life with grace and strength. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop overthinking. You start knowing, not from logic alone, but from wisdom. Because when you are aligned, intuition becomes your compass. You no longer chase signs. You are the sign. You stop searching for purpose. You embody it, and the world begins to mirror your inner state. People sense your energy before you speak. Opportunities seem to find you at the right time. The right doors open without you knocking. Not because life suddenly favors you, but because you are finally moving in rhythm with it. Alignment is not about controlling the outer world. It's about tuning your inner world, like a musician tuning his instrument before the symphony begins. When you are in tune, everything you touch plays in harmony. But this alignment requires devotion. You must keep returning again and again to truth, to awareness, to stillness, because the world will try to pull you off center. It will test your patience, poke at your fears, tempt you with noise. But each time it does, you will remember this peace. You will return to your breath, and you will find your balance once more. This is the new discipline, not of force, but of flow. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to rush. You understand that nothing meant for you will require you to betray your peace to have it. You don't chase anymore. You align. And alignment feels different. It feels light. It feels effortless. It feels like home. Because when you live in alignment, you no longer ask, am I on the right path? You become the path. Every step, every choice, every word becomes an expression of your inner harmony. This is what true mastery feels like. Not control, not dominance, but integration. You are no longer divided between who you are and who you think you should be. You are simply you. And that is more than enough. When the mind, body, and spirit move as one, peace is no longer something you visit. It becomes the place you live. And from that place, you return to life not as who you were, but as who you've become. Now, let's return home to peace, to presence, to the quiet power that's been waiting for you all along. And then one day, the noise quiets. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stop needing every answer. You stop rushing every moment. You stop measuring your worth by what goes right or what falls apart. There's a calm that settles in. A calm that doesn't depend on circumstance. A calm that comes from finally remembering who you are. This is peace. Not the fragile kind that breaks when life shifts, but the grounded kind that stays no matter the weather. You have walked through the storm. You have watched your thoughts, your fears, your illusions rise and fall like waves. And still here you stand, still breathing, still present, still whole. Peace was never lost. It was simply covered, buried under noise, control, and resistance. And now that you've released them, peace rises to the surface like light through clouds. This is not a new you. This is the real you. The one that existed before fear, before doubt, before the world told you who you had to be. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are unfolding perfectly in your own time. The world may still be chaotic, but chaos no longer controls you because peace is no longer something you chase. It's something you carry. When anger anger comes, you breathe. When fear whispers, you listen but do not obey. When uncertainty visits, you welcome it like an old friend, because now you know nothing real can be threatened, nothing essential can be taken. This is what it means to live awake. You no longer fight your mind, you guide it. You no longer run from emotion. You feel it fully, then release it gently. You no longer seek perfection. You find beauty in imperfection. Peace is not the end of storms. It's the discovery that you are the sky, vast, untouchable, endless. And storms are only passing weather. When you understand this, even pain becomes sacred. Even endings become teachers. Even silence becomes a song. This is freedom, the kind that doesn't need applause, doesn't need validation, doesn't need proof. It just is. You move through the world differently now. You speak slower. You listen deeper. You love more gently. You forgive faster. You let things go without losing yourself, because you've learned that what truly belongs to you doesn't need to be chased. It will find you in time, in truth, in stillness. Peace doesn't shout. It whispers. And when you live from that whisper, you become a light for others still lost in the storm. They'll ask, how do you stay so calm? And you'll smile, because you know the answer isn't something you learned. It's something you remembered. You'll tell them, I stopped fighting life. I started trusting it. And in that trust, I found peace. And as you walk through your days, there will still be noise, emails, deadlines, opinions, storms, but underneath it all, a quiet pulse remains, a steady rhythm that whispers, I am home. Home, not in a place, but in your presence. Not in success, but in surrender. Not in certainty, but in awareness. This is the destination every seeker unknowingly walks toward. Not more wealth, not more control, but more peace. Because peace is the foundation of all abundance. And once your mind is calm, everything else flows in its proper order. So take this with you. You do not need to chase the calm. You are the calm. You do not need to seek light. You are the light. You do not need to return to peace, because peace has never left you. It's been waiting patiently beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the thoughts, for you to remember. And now you have. May your mind stay clear. May your heart stay open, and may your peace never again depend on the world outside you, because when you control your thoughts, you don't escape the chaos, you transform it.